All right, troops, welcome to the Action Leap. My name is Owen. So tonight we are going to be counting down our top 5 John Carpenter films, and that is a really hard task to come up with 5 because I love all of his films. He's pretty much like my favorite director. So really looking forward to getting into that. But before we do that, we'll bring on the crew. So first of all, I'll bring in J-Man. All right.
Good, how are you?
That's never not funny. I'm good, thank you. So I'll bring in John Gerber from Action-Flix. All right.
Mistake.
Your rules are really beginning to annoy me.
Oh,
And we got Charlie from Give Me Back My Action Movies and Horror Movies. I'm on G-N-B-M-A-H-M.
It's a lot of letters, you know. It all makes sense when it's spelled out. There was only so much room when it said put in the thing.
Yeah.
And we got Steven. Hello there. All right.
hello.
And then we got Thrash Pondo. What up?
Hey, cats and kittens.
What's going on? So yeah, this is probably going to take about 5 days to go through this list tonight, because it's like, how do you narrow down one of the all-time greats? But it's going to be fun to get there. But before we go into John Carpenter, we just want to wish a big happy birthday to Sylvester Stallone, because I know he's watching, because he always does.
He's our biggest fan. But
yeah.
Behind Jean-Claude, though. Behind Jean-Claude.
Yeah, of course. Everyone's behind Jean-Claude. Yeah. So happy birthday, Sly.
Stallone just texted me. He says thank you. So
No, I do know his brother, though. I have interviewed Frank, and he's awesome.
I like Frank Stallone.
See that Rambo poster I shared? That I want that for my fucking wall.
Oh, that is such an awesome.
Dude,
Oh,
that
yeah.
thing was
I saw that.
amazing.
Yeah, that's cool.
I want that on a t-shirt.
Yes.
That was really cool.
I need it right here.
I was watching or reading the news. Did you hear it? Like James Cameron was saying about Avatar: The Way of Water, and he was like, "I don't want people bitching because the movie's 3 hours long." And I was like, "What if the movie's just shite?"
Yeah, right.
And nobody wants it. I mean, I quite enjoyed Avatar at the time.
fun.
I remember thinking it was all right. You know, I like the 3D experience and everything, but it's not a movie I watch often. I'm like, I can't get over how silly the aliens look, and it just looks like a video game.
Yeah.
His whole comment about, get up and take a piss. I'm like, no, that's not what we're saying. We're saying take a piss, dude. Get over it. Just be done. We're done with it. 3 hours, and we got 2 more coming. Come on.
I think 3 more. Actually, I think there's 3.
I was just thrown off that he wanted us to get up and leave during his movie. That assumes that there's
Yeah.
parts in the movie we can skip.
Yeah, is there going to be like boring filler moments or something? So
That's right, man.
it doesn't exactly inspire confidence. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm only going to go see it if I get a press screening, to be honest. I'm not paying for it. So,
I'll wait for streaming.
yeah, I mean, I want to see it because I want to see what the 3D is like, but I was expecting that after 10 years or whatever it is, in fact, 12 years, in fact,
12 years.
12, yeah, I would have thought that, the visuals would look so much more different and more spectacular. I'm like, it looks exactly the same.
Well, we saw the trailer, I think J-Man and I think before Top Gun, they showed the Avatar trailer. It's that or Doctor Strange, and the 3D looked amazing because it had to be Doctor Strange because we saw that in 3D.
Yeah.
And the 3D, like that trailer was in 3D and the 3D looked awesome. But then again, Avatar 1 3D looked awesome. Your point, nothing looks different.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you're going to see that movie for experiencing the world. That's why the story has to be a little bit more basic, because you want to get into the world of what's being presented. So the 3D was cool. For me, the world is a little bit too obviously perfect nature. Like, where are the evil things in nature? Like, where's the, you know what I mean? There's always nature's good and bad. So we didn't see any bad things. It's like Pandora's the most perfect spot, and us evil humans are ruining it. Well, there's got to be some conflicts within nature itself. Like, there's got to be some natural predators or some other entities. They didn't show that, so it's a little bit too nice.
Yeah.
Well, that's part 3, part 4, and part 5. That's when we get to that. That's why it's expanded so much.
Right.
Yeah. The thing is, like, the characters just weren't interesting. I mean, I had to IMDb, and I was like, what's his name again? Jake Sully. And I was like, is he named after the character in Monsters, Inc.? Is that Sully? Which is a better movie.
Oh,
he was blue too.
Movie,
yeah. So anyway,
it's a love letter to vintage science fiction. I mean, he even admitted it's every sci-fi book he read as a kid.
Right.
So it's really not any one story. It's 12 different stories. It's Brian Aldiss. It's Robert Zelazny. It's, any number of Harry Harrison. All just sort of, And then he tried to capture lightning in a bottle twice, and that's not always an easy thing to do, particularly if there's no extension. If he's just giving us a rehash of what he already gave us.
Right.
Yeah, that's the thing for me. It's like, is anybody really asking for a sequel to Avatar? I would have been quite happy with it being on its own, particularly after 12 years. You're like, is the appetite still there for it? But
now it's cool to bash.
Look how long we waited for a Top Gun, though. I mean,
that's true.
We all loved that, or most of us. Everyone loved it. I loved it, but
arguably better than the original, maybe. Yeah.
I think the only difference, though, is that Top Gun, the original, is a well-remembered classic from the 80s, where Avatar is now derided. It's cool to make fun of Avatar, because it made so much money.
Yeah.
When it came out, I was one of the few people who didn't like it, and no one would listen to me except J-Man and you guys, But now there's no appetite whatsoever. Like they're now streaming into, hey, this might. I don't think it'll bomb, but now they're in the you're not topping the original. For sure, box office.
I hate people, but I do hate people going back and saying it sucks after it makes $1 billion.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, made $1 billion. Oh, I'm sorry. What a garbage movie that must have been. Everyone must have despised it. Right? Like it's like rubbish crap. I hate that. They did that with Titanic too. It's like, oh, it's boring, it's stupid. It's like, okay, well, I'm sorry. Well, everyone watched it. So what do you want?
Women watched it.
I like Titanic.
I actually liked it too.
I mean, there's parts I like. I can give me all the fun, all awesome disaster part. Everything else, just, I don't need.
I just remember going to see Avatar and because it was making so much money, and I got out of it. I was like, it was good, but I don't see why it's making so much money.
Yeah,
so,
it was different. That was it. We watched it and realized it's not different. We went to watch it because we thought it was different. So,
well said.
I had no interest in going to see Avatar when it first came out. I was like, that looks stupid. I'm not interested. But then my cousin said to me, he said, dude, you have to see this film in the cinema, in the 3D. He says, trust me. He says, it's not one of my favorite films of all time. He says, but it's an amazing cinema experience. He says, go see it. And I went to see it, and I was like, okay, I'll admit that was awesome. And that's the best 3D I've ever seen in a movie.
Easy.
Only followed by Tron Legacy, which I love.
Yep.
I saw that in IMAX 3D.
That
was
awesome.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
And I think Avatar hit when the 3D boom was really getting going. So
it started the 3D boom.
Everybody dived in.
Yeah, it was the thing that really kicked it off. So
yeah.
So before we start talking all things Carpenter, so anybody doing anything cool on their websites or streams? J-Man, what you got coming up?
I've got 3 weekly shows. Thursday nights is comic book talk, so that's 90s. We're doing 90s comics. So we either have a topic or we look at everything that was released on a certain month. So now we just did September of 1990. We just go through every comic that came out in September 1990 and talk about it.
Awesome.
And then next topic is going to be Cyberforce. So that's the 30th anniversary of Cyberforce Image Comics. I love Cyberforce, so we'll talk about that. Saturdays we do our Phantom Zone segment where we discuss everything that happened in the week in all the Marvel, DC media stuff. So Black Adam trailers or Ms. Marvel, Superman and Lois, which I now call Man and Lois because there's no super part in it. And then Tuesdays, Steven and I do a Women of Wrestling talk. So we talk about the WWE stuff, just the women's division because everyone's already talking about the men's division. So that's what we're doing.
Cool. And Thrash, what do you got coming up?
Well, as you all know, I started out as a vintage sci-fi horror site. And a lot of people have been saying to me, you haven't been doing much in the way of vintage sci-fi and horror. So I've been getting back to basics and talking more about your old schlock sci-fi, schlock horror movies, the Hammer movies from England, that type of thing. And I'll be doing that more and more as I go on. I have some good reviews keyed up with those things. Also, I've been doing something where I find what I feel are excellent sci-fi and horror shorts right here on YouTube, and I've been reviewing those, trying to get the awareness out. I'm still doing some of my old stuff as well. I've been having wonderful feedback with my dad jokes. I have an ongoing series of the top 10 worst dad jokes of all time. People have been eating that up. And also, speaking of comic books, I do something I call a wretched recap, where I pull out like an old comic book from the 70s, usually a gold key or something like that, and I do a read through and just sort of try to lampoon it in a good-natured kind of way. And a lot of people really love those. So that's the story on my channel.
Nice. Okay. Charlie, what's your next show?
Let's see. We just got out of space. So we did all action and horror movies that involved space. We actually did John Carpenter, Ghosts of Mars, knockoff Snake Plissken. And we have our list coming up, but I'll go ahead and say for the action fans out there, our next action episode is Broken Arrow. Ooh. I got a bug in my butt. Like someone was sharing it and doing a picture of it. And I went, God, I haven't watched that movie in forever. I didn't own it for some odd reason, so I bought it on Blu-ray, and we are covering Broken Arrow coming up. But got a lot of stuff going on with the show, some collaborations with some other podcasts, and we just did J-Man Space. So I'm going to officially come on here and say thank you for that, brother. That helped doing The Fifth Element. That's a complicated movie.
Yep.
So we did Space on that, and it worked out good.
Nice.
Awesome. That's great.
And John, now you just done an interview the other day, didn't you?
Yeah. So my website, Action-Flix.com. I've been doing the video and the audio thing on YouTube. I got the Action-Flix live and the Action-Flix, which is sometimes I pre-record. I interviewed Ranjit S. Mara, who has exiled The Chosen Ones, coming out on July 14th on Amazon Prime. I interviewed him live, my first live interview. So yeah, I was a wee bit nervous. Plus with a neurological disorder, so no way like jumping into that deep end like right away. But it went good. It was great. I reviewed the movie today. He allowed me to review it early with no spoilers. So I got that up. And I'm just trying to get my YouTube channel going. I got the Action-Flix live. Everybody's always invited, here, because right now I'm basically talking to myself, which is fine. I enjoy that. I enjoy listening to the sultry sounds of my own voice. But if I get anybody else on, that'd be super. The only problem is I don't have like a select day. Plus with my disorder, it's like I canceled shows and stuff like that, so it gets a little. And then one more thing I'm trying to get a 90s direct-to-video action stars homage going, where I'm interviewing direct-to-video 90s action stars, so 80s and 90s. So I did Marshall Teague a little while ago. I just did Michael Worth, 2 hours, freaking awesome. I'm still editing that. And I have some yeses pending, but it's like trying to get people to... then they don't answer me back for 5 days, but that's what I'm trying to build now is a series of interviews with my favorite direct-to-video action stars. So
scheduling nightmares, trust me. We understand running a podcast. It's insane.
Yep.
So Stephen, how's the books coming?
So I'm at the point where I'm going to be publishing my next book. It's an anthology horror series called Madhouse. So I have it all edited. I just now have to get the cover done, and then it's going to be published.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
All right, and I'm not doing a goddamn thing. I am treading water and just posting whatever. I don't care. But my day job's busy right now, so I will start doing more interesting things soon and maybe doing some interviews and things again, but not just now. It's summer and I'm enjoying being outside. So on to John Carpenter, one of the all-time great directors. So how did everybody first discover John Carpenter? Jay, start.
Well, okay, so I don't know what I saw. I know I saw Halloween first. I didn't pay too much attention to who the director is. John Carpenter is my favorite director. And at this time in my life, I never paid attention to writers, directors, and that kind of a thing. And I went to a flea market, and there's a woman there selling VHS tapes. And she's like, "Oh, you look like somebody who might like some of this stuff." I'm like, "All right." So she's like, "Oh, we've got this Escape from New York." I'm like, "Oh my God, this looks so cool." She's like, "Yeah, this is the guy who made Halloween." I was like, "Oh," I was like, "Well, Halloween's the damn best." I'm like, "Well, shit, yeah, I'll buy this." So I bought that. And then I was like, "Oh my God." I'm like, this is crazy. And then I'm like, I must own everything. And I scoured. Like, this isn't a time where VHS was difficult to get. Any of these movies that came out were very difficult to just go buy at a store. Like, I couldn't go to like Eaton's or Zellers or something, or Target for you guys or whatever, Walmart. Like these things weren't around, or they, you couldn't buy movies like that. So I would go to video stores and ask them to buy the rental copies. So I accumulated almost every John Carpenter movie that way. And I remember like video stores going out of business. Literally, this is my grandfather had to drive me because I didn't have a license. He's like, I'm like, you got to drive me, Granddad. You got to drive me to this place right now. They're going out of business. He'd drive me, and I was able to get They Live and Assault on Precinct 13 from that one store that was closing. So it's like that's how I was accumulating these movies. Same with Sam Raimi and David Cronenberg and these other guys, right? So that's how I first started to understand, who is this John Carpenter guy? And I know that his name started to appear, as in front of the title, which I actually thought was a great idea because that triggered to me to say, this is John Carpenter's The Fog, right? I'm like, oh shit, okay, I gotta watch this, right? Now it's not in every movie, but it's on the most of the really good ones. And that's how I got into John Carpenter. And then the music, and you start thinking, wow, this guy's so good. He's doing the music, the writing. So to me, a John Carpenter movie had a certain feel to it. And it's a feel that I really took to, and he is my favorite director.
Yeah, same here. And I miss seeing new movies from him.
Yeah.
And there's all these sort of iconic directors like John Landis as well.
Yeah.
You just don't see anything from them anymore. And I'm like, these guys made some cracking movies. So it's like, bring them back and, make some classic horror or action movies or whatever again, because Carpenter could do them both, action and horror, sometimes mix them. So believe it or not, the first John Carpenter movie I saw was Starman with Jeff Bridges and Karen Allen. Yeah, I love that movie.
I love it.
It's an awesome movie. So yeah, that was the first one I saw, and I don't know what it was. I always had this thing where I would watch the sequels before seeing the originals. So I was over at my buddy's house, and he was like, "I got this VHS of Halloween 5. Okay, I haven't seen the other 4, but I stick it on." I didn't care. Right. I was like, I don't know what's going on. So as soon as I saw Halloween 5, and I was like, "Oh, that's cool. I like the music. I have to go back and watch the other ones." So I did, and then that was it. So yeah, so Starman was what introduced me to him. So, but I'm not going to say what my favorites are until we get to it. So, John.
So I'm kind of like with J-Man, like with Halloween, but I didn't know it was John Carpenter. Like here, and I got a funny story. We had just moved into a new house that my dad had built, and it was in one of those developmental areas where there wasn't a lot of houses, so there's a lot of woods, right? And we were sitting in the family room watching Halloween because it was getting close to that season, and we had a big slider window, but there was no curtain for it yet, so all you saw was darkness and like trees whistling in the back. So I'm watching Halloween with my sisters, and I'm like, what's going on? I was young. I was like 7, man, or 8 or something like that. But then when I really knew it was John Carpenter, it was Escape from New York. And I grew up at a time where Kurt Russell was this wholesome, sweet, making the Disney flicks. And then here he is with an eye patch, smoking, and Call Me Snake, and I was like, what is this? And I'm like, and then yeah, so I was sold from then on. So it was basically Halloween where I didn't know him, and then Escape from New York when I did know him.
Okay, Stephen.
My parents took me to see Big Trouble in Little China in the theater. So that was my intro to John Carpenter. And I walked out and I went, that was pretty damn good, man. And then I think I saw They Live. I think my dad rented it. So I watched that. I'm like, this is really good. And my parents are like, are you nuts? Because this is, this isn't even his best stuff. And I'm like, what's his best stuff? My mother, and this is my mother. My mother doesn't watch slasher movies or horror movies in general, right? But she's like, you have to see Halloween. So sat down and watched Halloween. She's like, you got to watch The Fog. So I watched The Fog. My father kept mentioning The Thing. So I'm like, what is this movie, The Thing, you keep talking about? So she's like, you should watch it. I'm like, fine. So I said, so I basically got introduced to Big Trouble in Little China. And then because my parents were telling me this isn't even the best of Carpenter, I went back and looked at what they thought was the best of Carpenter.
Nice.
Okay. Thrash.
Well, I actually remember when a lot of these movies were coming out first run. I was born in 1967. So I remember them coming out, but I was too young to watch them. And my mother had a thing about slasher movies, thought they were too adult. So the first movie I remember seeing, you could thank HBO for it, because with HBO, there were two things. One, they aired a lot of these movies I didn't need to ride to the theater to see, and two, you could see them on Saturday afternoons when Mom was at work. So I got to see The Thing. I got to see Escape from New York. I got to see Halloween. I got to see John Carpenter's catalog, more or less, which was really big in the late 70s, early 80s. And the first one I remember seeing as a John Carpenter film was definitely Escape from New York.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
That was the one that really I go, who did this movie? And it's like, oh, John Carpenter. Got it.
Of course it was. Yeah. So Charlie.
All right, I didn't know I was supposed to remember all this stuff. I was having a hard enough time picking 5 John Carpenter movies. So I'm sitting here trying to remember, like, what did I watch first? And all I can remember is my dad was never like the kind like Steven's parents were like, oh, you like John Carpenter? Here's his filmography. My dad was like, is this movie badass? Charlie needs to watch it. As soon, and kind of like Thrash, I had to be a certain age. I think I was like 12 or 13 before I even watched like Delta Force. And it was like my first action movie. So it was after that. And Dad would be like, I remember watching Escape from New York. I remember watching Big Trouble in Little China, They Live. The one that stuck out the most was Dad saw in, we used to get the paper that had the times that played on channels. He's like, HBO, they're playing Christine. He goes, doesn't your buddy Daniel have satellite?
Christine.
And he goes, doesn't your buddy Daniel have satellite? And I was like, yeah. He goes, I'll give him a tape, have him tape it for me, talk to his dad. So I went over and he's like, oh, hell yeah. Next day, Daniel brings it over to me and I give it to Dad and he goes, all right, we're watching this. I'm like, cool. I watched that movie blown away. I'm like, holy shit, this is fantastic. He goes, my mom's mom, so it'd be my great grandmother, had a Plymouth Fury, that color, that everything. And he goes, I watched that movie in the drive-in. He goes, I've always remembered it. And it's one of those things where I've never thought about having you watch it till he saw that across the paper. Goes, we need Christine and you got to watch it. And, it's like my great grandmother drove that car with a Hemi, with whatever engine was in it. He goes the whole 9 yards. And she was a speeder and they changed the speed limit in New York and dropped it 20 miles. She didn't give a shit. She kept going. She had the whole glove box full of speeding tickets and all kinds of shit. That whole cliche. And then Dad's like, yeah, they're probably still in there. Whoever has the car probably has a file.
Rolled them up and smoked them.
That basically it. So yeah, I don't remember my first, but I have memories of John Carpenter movies.
Yeah. All right. Well, hello to everybody in the chat. Hey, Brennan. Hey, Severio. And there was a few comments of the on the air. So just catch up on all these comments here. So The Fog has always been my favorite. Was a chilling and scary ghost story. Great show, folks. Thank you. So yes, we'll just see where that ranks. So I'll start off. Now, this has been, I think, the toughest thing to choose ever. Like, I could choose a child over this easier. I'm like, because I can't decide which one to have at number 5. So it pains me to say this, but my honorable mention is going to be Big Trouble in Little China. And everyone's going to be like, what the hell? That should be number 5. But it's so close because it's joint number 5. I love it. But number 5, I love They Live more. So They Live is my number 5 because Roddy Piper, Keith David, and just I love the whole story, putting the sunglasses on. Probably my favorite ever street fight in a movie. I just think there's something so real about it, just the way they're just like going at each other, they're exhausted. And I just love the whole idea of, the consume and all the signs and everything. It's just such a great movie, and it's even more relevant now than it was then. So They Live is my number 5. So, Jay.
So I love every John Carpenter movie. I mean, I actually haven't seen The Ward, or I haven't seen it in so long that I don't remember much about it. I know there's a twist or whatever, which I won't reveal if people haven't seen it. But I legitimately like them all. And I mean, I could pick like 12 or 13 of his movies that to me are all like 9s or 10s, right? So my top 1 is very easy, which I won't reveal, but my number 5 is going to shock. It's going to send shockwaves through this stream. This is not higher. Yes, this is number 5. I'm wearing the shirt. It's Halloween is number 5. And the reason it's number 5 and it's not higher, is that I just love these other ones a little bit more. My top 5, I really love them all, and except for the first one, the 4 are almost interchangeable. But I'm just going with my heart, where I'm like, because when I'm really in the mood for a Halloween movie, I'll sometimes watch Halloween 2. You know what I mean? Because it's just a little bit, it's got more gore and it's got some nudity. Like, I'll just go for that one, or I'll watch 1 and 2 together, right? Like I'll just sandwich them.
I consider like one movie. Yeah,
they're basically like one movie, right? So that's the only reason that Halloween is I know that Halloween's going to be number 1 for somebody here for sure, and it's going to be higher up for most people probably, right? But it's just number 5. But I just love these other. My top 5 is going to be weird, but then Halloween's number 5.
That's why it's your top 5 and not anyone else's.
It's exactly, but Halloween's awesome. It's a great movie. It's the best slasher movie, obviously. That with a couple of other Italian stuff has really started slashers. So yeah, Halloween, Michael Myers.
Yes, indeed. Stephen.
My number 5 is Assault on Precinct 13.
Shit, I forgot about that too.
J-Man showed me this. He said, "Have you ever seen Assault from Precinct 13? It's Carpenter." And I'm like, I said no. And when he allowed me back into the room, because he threw it on, and my God, like, just, Napoleon Wilson and like, you can't argue with a confident man, and it's a siege. It's a goddamn siege. And I love the fact that it all starts over with this character who just disappears. Like, it becomes not about him anymore. It's like, it's a great story about war, where it's like the participants aren't even fighting over the original thing now. They're just fighting because they're in a conflict. They're locked in battle, and they don't even realize, oh shit, what are we still fighting? This guy. I think Austin Stoker even mentions that. It's like, this guy started all this, and he's just disappeared. Like, he's just there. Like, he hasn't said a word to us. Like, we don't even know why they were chasing him. But, honestly, Napoleon Wilson is one of the greatest characters ever conceived for film, which is, Carpenter has a knack for doing that. I know that was his thing for Rio Bravo. It's just my landline. I know that was the thing for Rio Bravo. And this movie surpassed Rio Bravo. So that's Assault on Precinct 13.
Okay. It's also a very influential Assault on Precinct 13 as well. Like, so many movies have copied that concept ever since, and even got the remake as well. The remake wasn't bad. The original's obviously better, but the remake,
I like the remake. The remake's good. Yeah,
remake's a good movie. Yeah. Charlie.
Oh, I talked, so it's all of a sudden my turn now. I'm going to echo what everyone's saying. This is almost an impossible task, and I went just gut feeling of, I basically went, what do I watch the most and in what order? So I did that, and They Live hit number 5. It has always been a favorite. Again, with my dad, I can't really say, and I have to ask him this, is like, did you know about John Carpenter, or did you just go, these are movies that are awesome? Because we watched They Live and we got done with it, and we're like, holy shit, that movie was fantastic. Great story, great fights. We loved Roddy Piper, man. We watched Hell Comes to Frogtown. We watched wrestling. My dad got to drink beer with Andre the Giant one night. So if he gets to watch those guys, it was a military base. He went to a show.
Wow.
Andre showed up at the bar they were all drinking at, and the game was, how many beers till Andre's drunk? Everyone was broke.
3 or 4 cases.
They were broke, and Andre goes, I have to go home now. And Dad watches him get in his car, and it was a Cadillac without a front seat. He sat in the back, and that's how he drove it. But that's my dad's favorite memory of a wrestler. But Roddy is one of his favorite, like, if he's in a movie, he's going to watch, especially action. But They Live, it had to be on the list. I think my list seems predictable yet shocking, because I'll just go ahead and take the mystery out of this. Halloween's not in my top 5. So yeah.
So Charlie has to go now. It's great having you on. Talk to you later, man. See ya.
Sorry, guys. I'll find something to keep me occupied.
Right, Thrash, your turn.
Well, one thing I will grant all of you is, for me, number 5 was next to impossible. Probably because the top 4 were in so solid. It was like fishing people out of shark-infested waters, and only one more spot in the life raft.
Right.
So I'm like, I had to leave behind like 3 or 4 that really, in my opinion, should have made the top 5, but there's only 5 spots.
Right.
So I had to go with They Live. Again, Roddy Piper, had to love him. David Keith is one of my favorite underrated actors in American cinema. I don't know why he never became a big star, but I think he's awesome. And that melee that 2 of them have, I believe at one point that was in the Guinness Book of World Records for the longest fight scene, a 2-person fight scene in American cinema. It may have changed since, but it was. And again, it's based on a short story by Ray Nelson, 8 o'clock in the morning. As I've said before, vintage sci-fi fan, I got to go with the vintage sci-fi, so pick They Live.
Makes sense, yeah. John.
Awesome.
So I texted Owen today, and I'm like, "Are you having trouble?" Okay, and your brains are working normal. Just think where I'm coming from. Like, Jesus Christ! I'm trying, and I wanted to watch these so much, and I only got to watch a few of them this week. So I'm an action fan first, and I'm into horror, but not as much as action. So my top 5 is kind of like part action, part horror. So I took my favorite horror and I took my favorite action and I blended them together. And of course, there's 8,000 honorable mentions. It's like, if it didn't make it, I'm sorry. But number 5, I have The Fog. And the reason why, because when I watch horror movies, like I can watch slasher movies all day until I'm blue in the face, like, you know, you slit his throat, you stab, you know, but it's the atmospheric horror movies that get to me. The Exorcist, you know, The Fog, Halloween, you know, it's the movies that aren't necessarily bloody, they're just scary as hell. And for me, The Fog, and again, I saw a lot of these when I was a younger kid. You know, I'm gonna be 50 this year, so I'm no spring chicken either. So when I saw The Fog, it left a lasting impact on me. Plus, it has a great cast. You got Adrian Barbeau, Tom Atkins, you know, who I love Tom Atkins. I mean, who else in Halloween 3 at the end, he's yelling, turn it off, turn it off. I hate that thing more than anything in the world. Can't stand it. But I love Tom Atkins, you know, and Jamie Lee Curtis, it's like you just got all these stars and everything. And then when you see The Fog coming, you know, and it's like, you know, you're trying to get away from it. That was scary for me. And I just loved it. It was it was that type of atmospheric scare, you know, that, and like when I watch a movie like that and it leaves an impression on me, you know, then I gotta, you know, then I know that it meant something to me. So yeah, my number 5 is horror, and I'm going with The Fog. I will say my honorable mention that didn't make it was Assault on Precinct 13, you know, and I'm just, you know, but again, that movie was like made like what, 76? So I was like 4. So I saw that like way when I got older, you know, but I loved it when I did watch it, you know, but it came in at number 6 for me. So yeah, number 5 is The Fog.
Okay. Shout out to Tom Atkins, by the way, for being one of just the coolest actors ever. He's in tons of Carpenter movies.
I love
just so cool. Even He's the Weapon as well, and he's just like one of these actors, is character actors who was in so many movies. He was almost that guy actor, but to Carpenter fans, everyone's like, it's Tom Atkins. It's like absolute legend. So,
absolutely.
I said thrill me for about 2 years when I answered the phone, based on Night of the Creep. Thrill me, and I'm like, I think my buddy who. Sean, not the Sean you know, I think he still answers the phone that way.
So we're at number 4. So I'm going to see that this is hard for the 3 and 4 because I couldn't decide which one would go where. But my number 4 is The Thing. So this is a great movie, and now it's perfect horror action hybrid. Still maybe the best practical effects of all time. Just going to say it. I think the effects are still absolutely stunning. The creature effects, the atmosphere, and just after us playing the board game a few weeks ago, with the Thing just sort of reminded me of it. And you got, I believe it's Ennio Morricone did the music as well, didn't he? Actually, wasn't John Carpenter?
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
I was gonna say that sounds right. So yes, let's go with that.
And it's one of these minimalistic scores, but it works perfectly in just building up the dread. So yeah, the Thing is my number 4. So Jay.
My number 4 is Big Trouble in Little China. I was a massive Shaw Brothers fan. I'm buying the collections on Blu-ray. I like kung fu movies. So I was like, oh my God, this is like a kung fu movie with Kurt Russell, who's the greatest person ever. And I'm like, this is the best. And when I first saw it, I was like, I get exactly what's going on. He thinks he's the best, but he sucks. He's got his one trick that he could use at the end. He's got one trick, catching. You can catch the that's all he could do. And I love that the other guy's really the hero. And I love that Jack Burton at no point in time at all knows what's going on, because that's the audience. I don't know what's going on either. I'm literally along for the ride, and so is he. I think there's a lot of energy in that movie. I think it was highly misunderstood. The storms are the goddamn best. It's basically Raiden, guys. They're all Raiden.
Yeah, it's totally Raiden. Yeah.
It's like you're fighting superpowered guys. There's creatures. There's magic. There's kung fu. There's Kurt Russell. I mean, I don't understand what more you want out of a movie. Like, I mean, there's no point in reviewing this. It's like 10 out of 10. It's just, it's the best. I bought all the reaction figures that came out. I don't know. We lost Charlie. He's collapsed. Come back, come back.
He displeased me, so I had him killed.
Like, yeah. That's what happens when Halloween's not in your top 5. Yeah. So I absolutely love it. I love all the dialogue. I saw it in the theater not when it came out, but I saw it at a theater, like a midnight showing. My God, everyone was yelling all the lines of dialogue. It's just, we're dying over it. We love it. Oh, is it? So Big Trouble's number 4.
Okay. John.
So again, like I'm representing horror and action here. And horror is the back end, action's the front end, because I'm an action guy. So it was down to 2 movies that slip into the number 4, and this was one of the ones all day long. I'm like, once this was number 4, then this was number 4. So again, Halloween didn't make it. I had to go with The Thing, and same thing like Owen just said. Again, Kurt Russell. I love Kurt Russell. The whole cast. And again, atmospheric, it is a little bit more violent, which I dug too, and the practical effects and not knowing who is what, and everything. That was just scarier than shit. And the ending, it's so somber. Like, yes, he wins, but he doesn't. It's like, I'm stuck here, and who's gonna rescue me? So it's just a depressing, bleak ending, and I kind of dug that, Yeah, so again, Halloween, I love Halloween. I don't want anybody to be like, oh my God, how could you? It's like, it's just The Thing, and I'm a Kurt Russell fan through and through, and I thought he was great in the movie, and as well the cast, and like anytime you get a flamethrower into the movie, it's like it stops in my book. And again, the music, I love the music. He's always great with the music, and he sets the tone with it. So that's my number 4.
Okay, Charlie.
When I disappeared, I realized something, and it adds legitimacy. I can't say words right now. I'm drinking. Legitimacy to my list, and I'm saving it for our number 1s when I do it. So my number 4 is Christine, and I already told that story because I had that ready, but I had to do the dad thing at the beginning. But no, Christine, we covered it on the show, and I actually put it out there where I feel like that is my favorite horror movie of all time. It just hits everything for me. I have a strong nostalgic tie to that movie, and I can watch it anytime it's on. When it was on Netflix, I own the DVD, and I'm still like, I'm gonna watch Christine. Click play. I'm gonna watch this, and I just love the path of him losing himself to the car, the whole storyline. I just love, and it's not a gory movie, but it left so much to your imagination of, the guy getting cut in half by the car, and then obviously the most iconic scene from the movie that even the Batman J-Man had to copy was the flaming car going down the road. That image, I want it on a huge poster in my shop. That's just that. No words. Doesn't have to say Christine, just the flaming car, that Plymouth Fury coming at you. And it was hard to make it my number 4, but I went off of going, there you go. I went off of what have I watched more than Christine lately? And I have 3 others that I've watched more.
There you go.
Yeah. Oh, you opened yours, Steve? I kept mine in the packaging. I'm one of those guys. I got to keep it in the back.
He has to play with it.
I was gonna get a Christine tattoo of the car, and they did like a kind of like a chibi version, like a cute version of the car, like where it's really beat. I was gonna get a tattoo of that because I just thought that would be I love Christine.
Oh,
Christine's a great movie.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
I've always wanted to take not like the actual Christine vehicle toy, but something similar and crush it into a cube and keep it as a little paperweight on my office.
That'd be
just to
awesome.
have a little red and chrome and just have this little crushed Christine on the side. It would be amazing.
All right, Stephen.
Charlie makes an excellent point for Christine, but
I do that.
I'm going to have to go with The Fog. The Fog to me, other than another one I'm going to mention later, The Fog to me is Carpenter's best shot film. It looks amazing when the fog comes in. It looks incredible. And I love the fact that it's basically played out like an old EC Comics. EC Comics really did influence a lot of great horror filmmakers and writers like King, George A. Romero, obviously with Creepshow, like the two of them got together as all EC Comics, and obviously Carpenter, because the fog feels like an EC Comics story. You got that ending where it's not a nice ending, and just the thought of like this fog coming in and these revenants killing people, and why are they doing it, and corpses brought back to life and all that stuff. It just really is a great visual story that he tells, and it's very haunting, right? Like there's nothing. I remember I was out in San Francisco, and it's very eerie. I was on the bridge, and I looked and I saw Alcatraz, how that lighthouse just keeps spinning and spinning in the fog and that. And it's just, to me, a very haunting image. And fog has always been like, heavy fog has always been like a very haunting thing. And it really, really resonated with me in the movie The Fog.
Well said. Thrash.
I too went with The Fog for number 4. But I love how we keep using the adjective atmospheric. Fog is very atmospheric after all. But yes, outstanding cast. In addition to Jamie Lee Curtis, her mom, Jennifer Jason Leigh's in it too. I thought that was always amazing. I went to school with her kid brother. R.I.P. Nick. He's no longer with us, I'm afraid. But I felt it was a really amazing horror film. And in addition to being very scary at times, one thing that I've always noticed about it is you actually have a certain amount of empathy for the monsters. I mean, here we are. They're a group of lepers. They're just trying to build a colony. And these local yokels trick them into wiping out their boat and stealing their treasure. And they get killed in the bargain. And so you really feel bad. So you actually feel for both sides. You want the humans to live, but you kind of want to see these reverends get their revenge after all this time. So it's like you really, you just really feel for both sides. Also, I don't know why they changed the location. I don't know why they didn't keep it in New England for a couple things. One, I grew up here on Cape Cod. On Cape Cod, that trick of making false signal fires to get ships to wipe out so you could grab all their stuff, that was a legit thing. They used to do that. And there's a little chain of islands right off our coast called the St. Elizabeth or just Elizabeth Islands. One of them, in fact, was a leper colony, briefly. So anyway, it has a real New England feel for it, even though they set the movie in California. It's always been one of my favorites.
Fair enough. John, wait, did you answer, John? I can't remember.
I did number 4. Yeah, I did number 4.
Yeah, so we're on to number 3 now. I think everyone did their number 4s, right?
Yeah, they were caught up.
Okay, so my number 3 is Escape from New York. Snake Plissken is one of my favorite characters. It's my favorite Kurt Russell character. Sorry, Jack Burton. He's number 2. But yeah, I just love everything about it. I just love the whole idea of New York being like this prison Connolly, even though it's filmed in St. Louis. There's so many like great lines, like, you know, the president of what, and things like that. And, great cast as well, great music, great sort of dark visuals, but great sort of post-apocalyptic look to it and everything, and endlessly quotable. Yeah, Escape from New York is my number 3. So, Jay.
So this would have been my number 2, but my number 2 I've just watched more and I think has a better idea. My number 3 is Assault on Precinct 13. I used to babysit my neighbor's kids, and then it became more like they would just come over. We would play Dungeons and Dragons and Marvel game and stuff, right? And I would show them a super inappropriate movie. So I'd show them all, you know, and they had nightmares over Friday 13th Part 8. I'm like, really, kids? Like it wasn't even that bad.
Watch David Does Dallas, you'll be fine.
Yeah, they're like 12 or 13, and I would just show them everything, right? So we watch all the John Carpenter movies, and this kid was like, I don't know, 14 or something, and he'd literally, he'd come over, he's like, have you seen Assault on Precinct 13? He goes, that's a John Carpenter movie. Like, no, I've never seen that. He's like, it's so good. I'm like, this kid is now telling me what he about. So I tracked it down at when the video store was closing, and I watched it, blown away. I have Austin Stoker's autograph. And he says, you're pretty fancy, Jason. My name Jay. So he signed it. You're pretty fancy, Jason, which is what I wanted to put. I love the movie. I love every character. I love It's a Siege. It's a goddamn siege. Like Steve was saying, I know the entire dialogue of I can almost do all of the movie. And yeah, it was Steve, when you were saying how the guy came in, he's like, he came running in here. Jesus Christ, 30 minutes ago. All of this over one man. Don't forget about the Cholo. They delivered it to us. Cholo, right? So it's like, that whole thing, right? So I love Assault on Precinct 3. It would have been higher. It's just that like my number 2 has a bit of a better like idea, so I went with that one. But I love Assault on Precinct 13. I unfortunately did not like the remake. I thought they softened it up by making it like corrupt cops. I like the idea of a gang that's made up of interracial kids who are just insane. I think it's scarier, because the corrupt cops have a purpose, and I feel that the gang has no purpose other than to put violence onto people. Shooting the little girl is insane. When that happened, I was completely stunned. I'm like, holy shit. I think it's brilliant. All of the lines. Bishop is one of my favorite cinematic characters. I actually started writing a script for Bishop, what happened after the events of Assault. So yes, I love Assault on Precinct 13. That's
okay, Hollywood, listen to this guy and please make this movie.
Oh my God, it's the best. It's just called Bishop. It's awesome. Anyway.
And it's like a multiverse, and he meets up with Bishop from Aliens as well, and they fight aliens.
Oh my God, the
Bishops.
Wow. Yeah, Bishops.
And it's just a chess piece on the That's all it
Not
is.
moving for 90 minutes.
But it's on a pool of blood.
Perfect. I'd love it. Well, it's the white bishop on a red pool of blood. I'm producing. I'm producing this movie.
Yeah, we'll finance it. Yeah. All right, John.
All right, so number 3 starts my act. Like again, I'm into the John Carpenter action movies, and I was like, you know, and I'm like, what do I put in number 3? And it was then after a while, it was like a no brainer, like what 2 and 1 were going to be, at least for me. But number 3 is They Live, and I'll tell you why. I mean, it's just. I love that he's making fun of capitalism and commercialism, you know, because it's like it's especially nowadays. I mean, this movie just came out like yesterday because of like what he's poking fun at, because this society has a stick up their ass nowadays. It's like, take it out, you know. And like you know, and I was getting into wrestling, and Roddy Piper, the late great Roddy Piper. I mean, he's Nada. That's his name, Nada. He's just some average schmuck that he's homeless and he's looking for work, you know, and then he falls into this big plan. And then Keith David, and again the fight. Again, I was getting into, you know, martial arts and everything, and like, but it's not. I mean, it's just a brawl, you know. But and it just goes on. It goes on so long that you just start laughing because you're like looking at the time. It's like, when did this fight start, and why is it still going on? Just put on the goddamn glasses, you know. But it's like, and again, I've come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. That's one of the most iconic lines in cinematic history. I'll argue anybody till they're blue in the face, even with a neurological disorder, because that is just the best thing. And he looks like an active shooter in this movie because he's killing people, but nobody else knows who's he's. They just think he's killing just random people. You know, how awesome is that? You know, but it's really an alien invasion and nobody knows about it. And then the ending, I always like to think that somehow he survived. Like, you don't actually see him die. You know, he gives the finger. You know, but I always wanted to like do a sequel. You know, and he was kind of talking about doing sequels to it, but they sounded kind of weird. Yeah, I mean. And again, like I said, you know, and in the ending, you know, they grab at him and Keith David grab at M16s and start mowing people down. I love that ending, you know. And then in the ending, how can you love it? What's wrong, baby? I mean, that's the best ending ever. You know, John Carpenter is known for all these, you know, somber, depressing endings, and that's one of the funniest endings I've ever seen in a movie in my life. So yeah, so Roddy Piper makes it for me with John Carpenter. Again, the music, I love the music. You know how it's just like. You know, it's its own character, just like every other movie that he's ever done. So
I've got the CD soundtrack for that too.
I look them up every now and then and stuff like that. You know, and I'm like, I have a list of stuff that I would just want to buy if I had them. And that's on there. Yeah, the soundtracks are on there too. Yeah, so that's number 3 for me.
Before we continue, Total Meltdown 2 says, any love for Escape from LA?
My top 5.
Absolutely, yes, because initially we were going to do this stream and it was going to be Escape from New York versus Escape from LA, but we were like, well, everyone knows Escape from New York's going to win, so it's just a question of how much. So we thought, well, why don't we just we love John Carpenter.
I'm already in the doghouse over Halloween.
He doesn't like Halloween.
I'll keep my mouth shut.
Excuse me, they better.
So yeah. So Stephen, number 3.
It's got to be The Thing. I mean, this movie was built up to me by my dad before I even sat down and watched it. So I sat, like, to me, one of the, you know, I have a very perverse sense of humor. One of the funniest scenes ever is when everyone's tied to the couch and they're doing the blood, and then like it's just some random guy is there. You know, it's just like, oh, this guy, and then like, and then the blood jumps out, and then like the kid turns, and he's just turning into the Thing, and it's like these guys are like jumping up and down, like, get me the F out of here, like, you know, like this. I laugh through that entire scene. It's scary, obviously, and it's messed up, but it's hilarious to me. You know, and I love, like, you know, when his head comes down and skitters away. And then he's like, are you fucking kidding me? like, this is ridiculous. Kurt Russell obviously carries the movie. He's got a great supporting cast. I love Wilford Brimley for some reason as Blair. Like, he's just out in that little shed. They're like, we don't trust you. You stay there. I also find the dog scene extremely disturbing for some reason.
Yes.
And Richard Mazer, I thought he was understated but great, and he's the guy you always think is the Thing, and then he turns out to be okay, and Keith David's like, oh, he was normal, sort of thing. Like, you know, you just killed an innocent man. And the other scene when he's doing the paddles, the Dr. Richard Dice starts doing the paddles, and then the stomach just rips his freaking hands off.
Oh, I love it.
I mean, to me, it's unrelentingly brutal and suspenseful and tense. It's probably got the best ending for any horror movie ever. And I know it's been the sense of debate, like, who is the Thing, which J-Man told me about what the prevailing theory is, and it sounds good. It sounds good to me.
It is
Yeah, what was that again? You told me about it.
Watch Rob Ager's like breakdown of that. It's like an hour and a half breakdown, and Kurt Russell is not the Thing. He knows how to defeat it, and he's about to do something, and then it ends.
Yeah,
and that's all explained how he got to that and why it is. It's foreshadowed in the movie with the chess scene when he's playing computer chess.
Yes,
he's got the same sort of look, and when he just is like, screw you, and he just destroys the machine because he's sick of playing the game. It's a whole thing. You got to watch it.
Yeah, it's. I did watch it. It's pretty intense.
Yeah.
Gotta give a shout out to Kurt Russell's beard in that movie as well.
It's the best.
Oh yeah,
it was one of my favorite looks of his.
It's his hat, man. It's the hat that sets it off.
Yeah. Thrash, do we ask you already? I don't know.
No.
For number 3, no, but for my number 3, I went with Halloween. One of my favorite Halloween horror films. Jamie Lee Curtis is at her best. Just really, what more do you need to say? I had to go with Halloween. Great horror flick.
Nice.
Fair enough. Charlie.
My 3 is what I thought we were doing, and I'm glad you brought it up because I was about to bring it up. Was my 3 is Escape from New York, and I can't watch this movie and not watch Escape from LA.
Yeah.
And then I watch Ghost of Mars because as far as I'm concerned, that's the perfect trilogy right there. It's a fantastic Escape from New York, post-apocalyptic. It's a dark movie. It's downtrodden. You love Snake Plissken. He is it. You're focused on him. You know, Duke of New York, #1, all that stuff. Then I watched Escape from LA, and I used to dog that movie a lot till I watched it again last year going, holy shit, this movie's amazing. Get rid of the surfing scene. It's a great movie.
Yeah, it's just the effects that are the problem.
Yeah.
Everything else is awesome.
And then we covered Ghosts of Mars for our space journey because John Carpenter had to be in there. And I'm like, this movie is insane awesome. And then I read an interview where John Carpenter's like, I just wanted to make an amazing action movie. He goes, I don't know why everyone hated it. It was everything you wanted as fans. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. So to me, it's the Escape trilogy, but for the rules, it's Escape from New York. So that's my pick.
Yeah, fair enough. Tom Meltdown was saying here about the tentacles and the dog. Yeah, that scene was awesome.
Yeah, man.
Has everybody done their top 3? The
Yes.
number 3?
I think we're all 3 now.
Okay, so we're number 2 now. So my number 2 is The Fog. Now, The Fog is one I watch all the time. It's one of my favorite slasher movies. Me and my brother watch it. Even my mum watches it, and my mum doesn't watch horror movies, but she said, once again, she loves the atmosphere of it. You love the idea that weather is a character in itself. This like The Fog is just so creepy. I love the whole idea of Blake and his men with the red glowing eyes coming out of the fog. It's just like demonic. It's really, really creepy. Also, did you ever notice how easy Jamie Lee Curtis's character is in this film? Like, she sits with Tom Atkins, like, he's like, hi, and she's like, do you want to have sex? Sure.
It was a different time, Owen. I don't know what to tell you, man.
Yeah.
It was that easy
Back
for
then
me?
we called it
No.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah, The Fog, the atmosphere. I love the music as well. I love that little piano theme they have. And to this day, anytime I hear a foghorn in the distance, you just sort of get a little chill. I absolutely love that. So, but also, The Fog isn't a gory film. Like, there's some cool, it's funny, like they kill people with hooks, but you never actually like see it. There's no blood or anything. It just happens quickly, and I think that works better a lot of the time, where it leaves it to the imagination.
Yeah.
So the Fog is my number 2. So I'm going to change it up. I'm going to Thrash this time.
My number 2 is Escape from New York. I love this movie. Kurt Russell channeling Clint Eastwood from The Good, Bad, the Ugly, pairing him up with his rival from The Good, Bad, the Ugly, Lee Van Cleef. I mean, even though it's a completely, totally different setting, I thought it really, really worked. The supporting cast is phenomenal. Ernest Borgnine steals the movie.
Yes.
Adrian Barbeau's great. Harry Dean Stanton as the brain, the sort of evil, smart guy. I just thought he really, really worked. It's one of his best roles, that and Repo Man, if you ask me. And the narrator in the beginning, and I'm sure you guys already know this, but for those of you out there who don't, that's actually Jamie Lee Curtis giving that expositional dialogue at the beginning. Jamie Lee Curtis popped up in so many of Carpenter's films. It's almost fun trying to spot her. And it's just like the perfect action movie. There's just the right amount of story and action blended together to be riveting, but not just an extended fight scene. There's a lot going on, and it all just sort of comes together. Donald Pleasance, even with his English accent as the American president, he makes it work. And, of course, Isaac Hayes, the consummate bad guy. I mean, I wish they had made another movie just about the Duke of New York. The only problem was he was already dead. I thought it was just so amazing. So yeah, I had to go with that as my number 2.
Okay, Jay.
My number 2 is They Live. If you look at the first 5 minutes of They Live and think to yourself what the story is, and you look at the last 5 minutes of They Live, you're like, how did we get to here? That movie escalates like faster than any other movie ever. It starts out, Roddy Piper's walking around. Oh, I gotta get a job. Oh, and Keith is like, I walk a straight line. All right, And then it's like, oh, there's some shit on TV. Oh, that's weird. And then it's like, oh, I found these glasses. That's weird. Why are they hiding these glasses? Like, who cares? Why are they smuggling these? And then it's like, what the hell? The entire world's brainwashed. And then it's like, holy shit, there's aliens. Holy shit, the cops are in on it. Oh my God, I gotta fight everybody. Oh, there's an entire underground movement fighting these aliens. It's like, oh, now we have to stop their communications. It's like, holy shit. Like, it doesn't, I mean, I don't even know what to tell you. When he put those glasses on and he looked, I was completely destroyed. I didn't know anything about this movie. I love Roddy Piper. He's one of my favorite wrestlers. I have all his DVDs, all that. I just got it because it was Roddy Piper and John Carpenter. I got it the same day as Assault on Precinct 13. No doubt they're both in my top 5.
But that's the best day ever.
Right. and I'm like, this is just crazy. And I think the story's good. I think it's a masterpiece. Everything is genius. The lines, just how even they sell out, like Buck Flowers sells out. He's like, well, we sell out every day. Might as well be on the winning team, right? All that stuff, like, it worked back then. I know everyone says it works now. It worked then. It worked then and it works now because the more things change, the more they stay the same.
The themes are timeless. Yeah.
It's just a timeless concept. I don't know. I think it's genius. Yeah, I don't even like having Nada as a name. I just like that it's just a name. I know they put Nada just to say that there's no name, but I would have just put like Roddy Piper. Like there's just not even a.
He's no name.
That's
he has
no name.
Yeah.
Nada.
Nada.
Yeah, it's like Nada. It's just there's no name. I love that.
Yeah.
He's just a drifter, and he contributes to saving the world or whatever. At least waking us up. So I think They Live is a genius.
Charlie.
Okay. My number 2, Big Trouble in Little China, man. I love this movie 100%. Got Kurt Russell as, my brain's not working right now. Jack Burton. And it's a comic book come to life. It has action, kung fu. It's got my dude Al Leong and Gerald Okamura in it. Kim Cattrall. I mean, James Wong. Name it. Anyone that was of the Asian, cinema is pretty much in this movie, and it's just fun, man. It's like Jack's just thrown into an adventure. He doesn't want to be part of it, and he's like, "Damn it, I got to go do this now." I just want to get my truck back, man. That's all I want to do is get my truck back. And you get the 3, elements, lightning and thunder and, all these guys. It just keeps going. And Lopan is this giant demon. And then he's a guy in a wheelchair. It's a floating eyeball. I mean, there's just so much about that movie that it's like, I love it. This is an amazing movie. So it's number 2. I watch it regularly.
Yeah. Actually, I like this point here. Meltdown makes. I love how Carpenter can make bad or ambiguous endings seem satisfying. Not many directors can do that.
Yeah.
That's very true. Yeah. I also said that.
100%.
Carpenter likes Escape from LA more than Escape from New York.
Yeah.
It's funny.
It's got Bruce Campbell in it, man. Come on.
I interviewed Bruce Campbell a couple of years ago in person at the Fan Expo, and he was wearing a suit, and he was like the best dressed guy I'd ever seen. He just looked awesome, and it was so nice. We chatted about Burn Notice and Evil Dead and everything, and it's one of those guys you just want to talk to for days. There's just so many things you want to talk to him about. It's so awesome. So, John, have we had your number 2 yet?
No. So my number 2 is the same as Charlie's, so I'm not going to really dwell that much into it, though.
I'm sorry I went so long.
No, it's okay. But again, I was in the martial arts, and it's just one big martial arts action comedy extravaganza. It's brighter than anything. It's funnier than hell. and it's the one movie where the hero absolutely does basically nothing to help the plot a lot. He knocks himself out for 2/3 of the finale, for God's sake.
Right.
So he that's what I love about him. He's just, they're like, who? He's like, Jack Burton, me. He's like, nobody knows who. But he thinks he's more popular than he really is. It's one of Russell's best characters, and that is done. He's the one that does all the movie. It's just like Burns along for the ride. He's got his machine gun. It's like, but he doesn't do anything to really. He does, but he doesn't. He's just there for his winning personality. And I just love that about the movie. And like James Hong is basically a horny demon who wants to. It's like, I get it, but it's like, it's the wackiest martial arts movie in my collection, and I can't watch it enough. I always go to it, like just the other day I was having a bad day, and I'm sitting there, I'm like, what can I watch? And then there was, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna put this on for like the 5,000th time. And again, the ending, he got his truck back, and he's like talking on CB, and all of a sudden the monster pops out. It's just, now what? It's like you wanted a sequel to it because he's such a great character, and like I said, the most useless hero in cinematic history, but we all love him anyways. So
it's all in the reflexes, John.
Yeah.
There's a sequel comic book I have somewhere.
They did. They continued it in a comic. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But I would rather a movie, and I've no interest in that much talked about remake with Dwayne Johnson. I'm like, no.
Oh, that died.
No, thank God.
Because nobody wanted it, and they're like, okay, well let's just not bother. I was like, do something new.
So, he would not have get justice at all.
Who's not given their number 2 yet?
Yeah, and Kurt Russell's my man. So
exactly. Yeah, no one's better than him. Yeah, right, Steven?
It's gotta be Escape from New York. Genius movie. That's the other movie I think that's among his best. That's his best shot. That and The Fog. I love the architecture. I love the idea of New York being a prison island, because this was back when New York was having the issues with violence, and you could sort of conceive that they would make a prison island out of that, like they would be forced to do that. Like Snake Plissken is, to me, Kurt Russell's best character ever. He's just cool. I love to set up that, we put a bomb in your, it's a Suicide Squad. We put a bomb in your neck. You got to go get the president. We're going to detonate it if you don't get him out within so much time. Just him navigating through there. And you're always like, at what point is this guy going to realize that he should probably look at trying to get the bomb in his neck out versus trying to say, because he doesn't care about this. So you're kind of like that push-pull thing when you're like, does he really care about this? Does he care about living? Like, does he really care about? Because where he's going to end up is New York, is on this prison island. So I love going through the entire movie thinking about this. The characters are all great. Ernest Borgnine as Cabby, I agree, is like awesome. I love Don Pleasance as the president. I love the fact he's just a schmuck. He's just like, like he's very much like gives lip service. Yeah, like all the people who died. Yeah, they'll be, honored, whatever. It's like, and Snake Plissken doesn't believe him. He kept the tape because he didn't believe him. And he like, I don't know, like this movie is ripped off all the time for obvious reasons. It has a perfect setup. It's got a great look. It's got fantastic characters. It's just an enjoyable ride from beginning to end.
Well, agreed. Yeah, remember that movie Lockout with Guy Pearce, which is basically
we saw that in the theater.
That was our.
I love
that was our first movie in our space journey. We did Lockout.
Yeah.
Because we had to talk about John Carpenter suing them.
Anyone?
He sued. Yeah, it's the exact same movie. It's outrageous,
but it's just as fun.
Guy Pearce is awesome.
Guy Pearce was amazing.
It's like,
I mean, the people who'd be behind Point Break should have sued makers of Fast and Furious because it's exactly the same movie. Point Break's better. So. So has everyone said their number 2?
Yes.
It's all right. So number 1. So this will come as a surprise to absolutely nobody, but my number 1 is Halloween. which is one of my top 5 films of all time and my favorite horror movie of all time. Like, is the acting bad in it? Yes. Do I care? No. I love Jamie Lee Curtis. I more love Michael Myers more than I should, in a weird way. I think the mask is the coolest thing ever. The William Shatner mask, which is spray painted white. It's the best horror movie theme tune of all time, and maybe one of the best movie theme tunes of all time. The music is, without the music, the film would be nothing, like so many other movies. I absolutely love it. So yeah, Halloween definitely easily my favorite. It's not even close. Like, Halloween is just easily my number one. I love Michael Myers. I love the franchise, even like the lesser entries that people don't like Halloween 3. I've always loved Season of the Witch. I always thought, you just don't call it Halloween 3, just call it Season of the Witch, and it would have just been a beloved movie immediately. I thought it was great. So yeah, so that's me. So Jay?
My number one is Escape from New York. Escape from New York is in my top 10 favorite films of all time. I think it's a masterpiece in every way. I like the setup. I like mission movies. I like where the mission is clear. It's defined. The hero has a reason for going on it. I like the time limit. I like the encounters. He encounters different characters. It's like a role-playing game. He meets other people. Some join the party. Some get killed. I like the look of it. I think it's great that they shot like where there was a lot of destruction. It looks very real, and it's scary, and it's serious, and there's no nonsense. And I feel that Snake is threatened. He's injured a lot. He doesn't just walk through the movie. He's not invincible. I love that he sits down at one point. He's like, fuck, I just got to take a break. Like, this is just, I can't do this, right? I just like take a break, and it's like, okay. And then even when he calls and it's like, oh, the president's, someone's had him for dinner, that is great. Obviously all the action, everything is good. The ending, when I saw it, I was completely stunned as to what was going on. Like when he played the tape and it was the American Bandstand, I was thinking, like, that's not the tape. And I was confused. Like, I'm a kid watching this, and then Snake is walking away and destroying the tape. I thought, wait, he destroyed the tape. Wait, what? Okay, no, hold on. And I rewound it. I'm like, okay, I have to rewind this, and I couldn't comprehend that this character just screwed over everybody. I didn't think that was a possible thing that happened in movies. I think it was the first time that I'm like, oh, okay. And then I'm like, yeah, screw the president. He was a piece of shit. It's like he didn't give a crap. I was like, yeah, I couldn't wrap my head around that was an ending that happened. That and Phantasm were like the two movies where I'm like, did the hero just lose? Or, it's like the villain kind of won, but in Phantasm, I'm saying. But yeah, for Escape from New York, I was like, wow, I can't believe it. I couldn't believe it. So I love that movie. I love Escape from LA. I think it's a great, fun, super awesome ride movie. It apes on the first one, and it makes fun of it too. And they know they're doing it. So just like New York, like that kind of thing. So, but yeah, Escape from New York, I think, is a masterpiece. Like, it's like easily number one. There's no question in my mind. It's one of my 10 favorite films of all time. So
fair enough. Steven?
Probably no shock to people who know me. Number one is Halloween. It's in my top 10 movies of all time. To me, it is as close to a perfect movie as you can possibly get. You start off with the audience is basically committing a murder because you are the point of view of Michael Myers, and you kill Judith Myers. Like, it's your POV. You, the audience, kill Judith Myers. It's absolutely genius how they set that up. I love the fact that, when you take the mask off, he's basically depowered. Like, he's the shadow. He's the boogeyman. He's not Michael Myers anymore. He's become more than Michael Myers. He's become like incarnate evil. I love that entire idea. Donald Pleasance saying he is simply and purely evil is the greatest villain motivation in cinematic history. And, Rob Zombie completely screwed the pooch by trying to give him a backstory. Like, don't do that. He is simply and purely evil.
Yeah, that ruins the point. Yeah.
Yeah. The score is top 3 movie scores ever. Genius score. there's not a moment in that movie, even the stupid jump scares, like when Tommy's running and he runs into Michael and the music just pops. I even love that stuff. From beginning to end, and even like they're watching The Thing from Another Planet as the Halloween movie. I like that little piece. And Tommy and Lindsay sitting there and watching movies. I'm sitting there like, yeah, when I went out trick-or-treating, when I came home, I would eat the candy and watch a movie. Like that's what you did as a kid. It's very, very
as a kid. I did it last Halloween.
I did it last night.
I eat my kids' candy and watch it.
They do the work for you.
Less walking.
I mean, it's very familiar, and that's what makes it all more terrifying. Is that, and one of the best sequences in movies history is when Jamie Lee Curtis is going door to door, knocking on doors trying to get help, and you hear dun 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 dun. And you never know how close Michael Myers is. It seems that he's on top of her the entire time, even though he's frigging across the road. Also, Nick Castle has the greatest walk in movie history. I can't define it, but no one can walk like him when he's Michael Myers. This movie is damn near flawless. I have no criticisms of it. It is a movie legend. So, Halloween.
Agreed. Yes. And Severio, Prince of
Prince
Darkness.
of Darkness
That was
is
a good one
awesome,
too.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Didn't we watch that a couple of years ago? I got the Blu-ray. You had you over. Yeah, that was awesome.
And then I got to 4K.
That's right. Who's next? Thrash.
Well, probably if you've been paying attention to my other four, this won't come as any surprise to you. I had to go with The Thing for number one. Again, based on vintage sci-fi, the Joseph C. Campbell story, Who Goes There? Now, John Carpenter, he can do action amazingly. He can do horror amazingly. But I always feel the best thing he brings to the table is suspense. And The Thing is a suspense thriller. In addition to being a sci-fi movie, they find this MacGuffin, things go awry, people start turning on each other, you don't know who to trust, you don't know who your friends are, people start to break down. This actually becomes a red herring. Wilford Brimley, we think, is breaking down, but, well, I don't want to give any spoilers here, but of course, if you haven't seen The Thing by this point, you shouldn't be on this channel. Tom Waits, who I'm sure you all remember, has the dubious honor of being the one warrior we saw get killed on screen in the movie The Warriors. He plays the radio man who has a nervous breakdown just because he's screaming for help to help stations which aren't there. Just the way that they turn on each other, it's really indicative of your old style Cold War horror films, and I just ate it right up. I thought everyone was at their best. Kurt Russell, naturally. But again, Keith David, he was great in it. I'm sorry, I get his name wrong all the time. Mauzier, the guy who played
Richard Meeser.
Meeser, thank you. Who was from One Day at a Time, I believe. Played the boyfriend in a couple seasons of The Mom. But he's great. Wilford Brimley stole the movie. I love this movie. And I have to check out that Game Changer theory about how Kurt Russell's not The Thing. What site did you say I could find that at, J-Man?
It's Rob Ager. I don't know if he has it up anymore because you have to buy his videos. So he might have some of it up though. I'll put his name in the private chat.
Thanks, I appreciate that. I heard a theory once where and they didn't show it, of course, but the alternate ending is that both McCready and the Keith David character, they're both the Things, but they're rival things. They split so far back that now they see themselves as competitors and are basically having a pissing contest. Interesting theory. I don't know if I subscribe to it, but just the way it ends with them sharing the bottle of booze and saying, why don't we just see what happens? I mean, how could it be a more deliciously ambiguous ending? I just loved it.
Fair enough. And you managed to say that without moving at all.
I said it all telekinetically. I'm saying telekinetically.
Greatest ventriloquist ever.
Ever, yeah. Rich. John.
My number one is Escape from New York.
So I mean, everybody's pretty much said what they've said about it. I can't really add much to the discussion. Oh, sorry. I'll go this way. There you go. I get screwed up. I'm sorry.
Me too.
Yeah.
I'm just used to it now because I do 100 streams. So,
Snake Plissken's one of my favorite anti-heroes. He's one of the best anti-heroes in cinematic history. And the music that dun 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 dun. I just love the music. I love just watching the beginning. You know, when the credits start and you just start hearing the music. It's my favorite John Carpenter themes. And I love how it's an action movie, yes, but it's also a horror movie. Like, because there's not a lot of action in the last third of the movie. It's more running, trying to escape and stuff like that. But there's a lot of horror tinges to it. And I just loved his Mac 10 with the sound suppressor and the elongated clip. I actually got mad when he lost it. I was like, damn it, that was like the ultimate badass weapon. It's like you need to hang on to that. And then just the ending of him walking away, pulling the tape out, he's just like, F you. He's like, I saved you, but you're a douchebag. It's like you just can't beat it. And like I said, this is the first John Carpenter movie I watched where I started to know who John Carpenter was. I mean, I did see Halloween, but I had no idea John Carpenter did it when I saw him because I was so young. And see what it did to me. And then, but yeah, number one's Escape from New York. It always has been. It always will be. And again, I love Escape from LA. I have mad love for Escape from LA. Mad love.
I was kind of looking forward to that discussion. Just not that I was ever going to say it was better, but it's right there. It's right there.
You're right. You take out the surfing scene is just like, what was he thinking when he did that? Yeah. It's like whatever. And I love how at the end, like everything goes dark. It's like I love that. So yeah, I got mad love for Escape from LA, but Escape from New York's the one for me.
Okay.
Nice.
Charlie, is it Escape from LA for you?
It could be. It was a toss-up, but no. Before I tell you my number one, I had an epiphany while we were doing this because we talked about picking our top 5 was so hard for us, so we went with the ones that were more of a gut feeling. Mm-hmm. And then I'm sitting in my office going, "Damn, I got a really good gut feeling because my number 5, They Live."
Okay.
Nada. My number 4.
Yeah.
That's the one we've got. Yeah, we've got that.
Number 3.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, Snake.
Nice.
Number 2.
Yeah. Q-Fig. That's a Big Trouble in Little China Q-Fig.
And to announce my number 1.
There you go.
Nice.
The flamethrower.
NECA, you can never open those figures. They disintegrate upon opening.
But I'm sitting here going, I collect things from movies I absolutely love. It has to have a pretty good connection. I don't just collect. I got a few random shit, but it usually has to have a draw to me for nostalgia. So I was like, shit, I have everything that was on my list. None of that was planned. You guys watched me leave the screen for a second. So I'm like, oh shit, it's all around me. But I have to pick The Thing as my number 1 because it is horror, action, sci-fi. It has the perfect amount of suspense. It is, I agree, probably the most perfect movie of practical effects, still holding up today. I mean, nothing gets rubber suitish in the movie. Everything works, even when they up it to the higher def. It still looks fantastic, and I love watching The Thing. And it's on my list to introduce my son to for Halloween. That's going to be every year since he hit a certain age. I started out low, like we did Army of Darkness, we've done Frighteners, nothing crazy, and he's to that age now where I'm like, we going deep, boy, we going for The Thing. And it's always been one of my favorites because my dad started me on creature features. The very first one I ever watched was Deep Star 6. I had no concept of these movies. So it got to the end where they come up out of the water.
Yeah.
He goes, what'd you think? Was it a good movie? I was like, I stood up and I went, the movie was awesome. Getting ready to walk to my room. Boom. The monster jumps out of the water. I jump a foot. I am hooked on monster movies from that point. So Dad's like, oh, we have movies to watch. Leviathan, The Thing, all these things. He's just like, you're going to love all this. And The Thing has always just been peak, the perfection of a creature feature horror with enough action that makes me happy. And I can still watch it and get kind of tense watching it, again. And it's number one. It's The Thing.
Fair enough. So that everybody done their number ones then?
Yeah.
Woo.
Awesome.
We did it.
Yeah. Do you know what else? Another one I like, which nobody ever really talks about, but In the Mouth of Madness with Sam Neill.
Yes.
That's a cool movie. And I feel like it doesn't get enough love, but it's definitely fun. Prince of Darkness is a good one as well. I actually forgot about Christine, because Christine is way up there. I love everything about Christine. It's such a cool movie.
Somebody said we could only pick 5, so that's what
happened. I know. I mean, you can't just say all of them.
Well, this is already 90 minutes,
it's funny
right?
that you mentioned. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, but there's 6 of us, so it's like. But it's like we can't forget. If you were going to do that, then I love watching vampires.
Yes.
Thomas Ian Griffith.
Vampires! Damn it, vampires!
Yes.
James Woods at his peak perfection.
Okay,
Charlie, I was wrestling with that, putting it in my top 5, but I'm like, no, I just.
That's my honorable mention now. I didn't say one, so my honorable mention is vampires.
I have like 5 honorable mentions.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are honorable mentions.
Everyone had Escape from New York, right? And everyone had.
Yeah.
Was They Live in everyone's list?
Yeah,
I had it.
So.
Yeah.
Best endings period.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I saw In the Mouth of Madness. It was the second or third movie I ever saw on THX. I think the first one was Virtuosity. That I saw on
Virtuosity.
THX. And but this was like the second. My God, there was like 7 jump scare, and I'm not talking about like, oh, that got me. I'm like, whoa, shit! Like there was at least 7 In the Mouth of Madness. We walked out of that theater, was like, wow, that was great. That was the first time THX, like, we were like, holy shit, they cranked it up. And we're like, wow, damn, is this what THX is? I'm seeing everything in the theater. Like, Event Horizon, that had like 7 jumps.
We just covered that, and it made me want to go back and watch In the Mouth of Madness. Sam Neill,
Neill.
Yeah.
It's like, god damn, it's like THX.
And it's funny you mentioned H.P. Lovecraft, because of course, The Thing, while it's based on the Joseph Campbell, there's a lot of H.P. Lovecraft's At the Mountains of Madness, which is about an Arctic expedition as well. I mean, it's like a love letter to the two. If the two had a baby, and that baby became the best suspense movie of all time.
Yeah. I know Guillermo del Toro has been wanting to make a movie of that for years, Mountains of Madness, but for some reason it never took. He's had so many of these movies. Like to this day, I still would have loved to have seen his version of The Hobbit. And seen, that would have been depraved, probably shorter. But anyway, back to Carpenter. Yeah, fucking vampires, man. I forgot vampires. That's so good. You got James Wood, you got Thomas Ian Griffith, for God's sake.
Yes, as the
Terry Silver as the head vampire.
Vampires was a weird one too, because
got a little mahogany there, Owen.
James Woods is a vampire hunter. Jesus Christ. That alone sells the movie.
It has a line which I quote more often than I probably should in public, but I'm always like, nothing like a little head, huh, Padre?
Yeah.
Yes.
So vampires, weird thing was I was downtown for supposedly a screening of The Dentist Part 2, and it was during this festival, and then for whatever reason, they didn't have The Dentist Part. They're like, we don't have the movie. So what they did was, this is crazy. So what they did was they're like, we have John Carpenter's Vampires, and this is before it went anywhere. Like it didn't premiere. Like they're like, it was supposed to premiere later that weekend or something. And they're like, so your options, because they're like, that was the only movie they had that was a horror-ish kind of movie. Yeah. So they're like, if you don't want to see Vampires, you can get your money back, right? Because you were supposed to see Dentist Part 2 or whatever it was.
I think you won out on that.
And I'm like, holy shit. I'm like, F the Dentist. Like, this is nothing. I'll take the, I think it was Dentist Part 2. I'm going to look it up to see if the dates match. But like, I remember something weird like that. It was, I'm pretty sure it was Dentist Part 2, or maybe it was Dentist Part 1, which I both own. But yeah, and they're like, I'm seeing. So when he came out, and my buddy didn't go to see the didn't want to see Dentist. I was like, I didn't see the Dentist. I was like, I saw fucking Vampires, John Carpenter. He's like, what? I was like, yes. I was like, because we were like the first to see it, at least in Toronto or whatever. So we're like, holy crap. It was like awesome. And I was telling everybody, oh yeah, Vampires is bad. And people were like, oh, it's not that good. I'm like, you suck.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're not my friend.
Yeah,
I'm not
I don't
your-
like you anymore. I'm thinking about going home.
I don't know if I knew you at this point, Jay. Were you ever there when I saw John Carpenter in concert at the Danforth?
Yeah, I would have loved to have gone to that. We did know each other, yes, but I don't think I couldn't go or something. I don't remember.
Yeah, there was something
with that.
reason because I remember I thought the guys like must go to this. Because I remember, I mean, he came. I mean, he did the Halloween theme tune. I don't normally dance. I danced. I was like, oh my god, that's the greatest music of all time. So I was ecstatic. Oh.
The Halloween theme is my ringtone. It was the first ringtone when ringtones were a thing back with this phone, where it would open like that. I got Halloween, and I still use it right now. To this day, I use the Halloween as my. It's not in my top 3 soundtracks, unfortunately. I'd probably say it's in my top 10 soundtracks because Conan's number 1. But anyway, but yeah, like that theme is amazing. It's my ringtones since ringtones were a thing. So
I know I have a ringtone, but I never use it because my phone's always on silent. So you shut it on vibrate. But so I think it was the He-Man theme tune, and then Ed was like, "Please change that." And I was like, "Why? Don't be ashamed.
Awesome.
Don't be ashamed."
Oh yeah,
I can't see what that is.
Rockin' He-Man.
Nice.
I got like all the weapons.
Nice.
all the weapons. Yeah.
I have a picture to send you guys later in the group chat.
Okay. It's
You'll
not He-Man
dig
naked,
it.
is it? We don't see it.
It's He-Man related. It's kind of big. You'll like it.
The Massacre in the Motel at the beginning of Vampires is
Oh,
brutal.
that was
Yeah,
awesome.
that was super brutal. Yeah, and also
Love
you see
that.
Cheryl Lee's bum in the movie. That's always good too. So you got some nudity. So yeah, that's all right. I've never seen the sequel to Vampires.
Me neither.
With Bon Jovi, not that
Yeah.
bad actually. It's watchable.
I saw that once. I have to revisit that.
Yeah, I need to re-see it. Yeah,
It's better than Dust Till Dawn 2. So
Okay.
I didn't see that. I didn't see part 2 either.
yeah I've only ever seen
Robert
the first
Patrick
one.
was in there, wasn't he? From Dawson Down 2? Was that?
I
Like
forget
fake
who was in
rapper?
it. I know Bruce Campbell shows up briefly in the second one. Yeah.
That's already a classic. Yeah. So, is there any other Carpenter movies we haven't mentioned? So, yeah, Ghosts of Mars, I think definitely deserves a bit more love.
Yes, I love that movie too.
It's fun, man.
They kill the state like in such the stupidest way, but I forgive it. I forgive.
But he wanted to do Snake Plissken in space. That was his plan.
Yeah.
And the studio goes, no. So he goes, okay, give me money anyway, and I won't make it Snake Plissken. So we get Desolation Williams, who is dressed as Snake Plissken without an eye patch. Even to the end, he has chromed out Mac 10s with, it's Snake Plissken. It's just Ice Cube. That's all.
But
That's
Desolation Williams is one of the best character names ever, though.
And actually,
it's amazing. And
Ghost
the
of
bad
Mars
guy. Go ahead, John.
No, I'm sorry. You go ahead. You were talking.
No, I was just gonna say, like, the bad guy reminds me so much of the bad guy from Vampires. That tall, menacing, dark hair. The guy that says nothing that's intelligible. It's like no, and I'm like, I know what he said. He goes, kill everyone. It's amazing. And I got done watching that movie, going, fuck, this movie is amazing. I want to watch it again. So
I love the ending.
I
love the ending. How
I love it.
He breaks in and is like, "Let's go kill some more."
And looks at the camera and winks.
Yeah.
Love it.
It's Assault on Precinct 13 remake.
Yes.
Yeah,
it's a remake of Assault.
It's a mix of Assault and Escape. It's actually a really good, because you have the prisoners having to team up with the cops, and Desolation runs his crew, and Natasha Henstridge runs her. Also, first Jason Statham with hair. So because it was out before the one, which also hair.
Yeah. And then it went away. Thank God.
It works.
When
it
I
works.
did, I'm like, I'm just going to shake it.
And thankfully, he stopped trying to do an American accent since then. They're talking.
His American accent in the one when he's talking to the guy that's supposed to be his boss is the other version, and you're just like, stop. Just stop trying to do the accent.
Side of his mouth, and I'm like, "What are you doing? I'm totally not from London." I think you are.
I wasn't in Snatch. I don't know what you're talking about.
You look on the IMDb though. Wasn't Ghost of Mars his last theatrical movie? Like, because I was going through it, and then after that,
I don't know.
Did
the Ward get a theatrical?
I don't think so.
So I think Ghost of Mars is where he basically went, fuck Hollywood, I'm out.
Yeah.
He just wants to play video games and do a few things. They've had to twist his arm to come help with the Halloweens after Rob Zombie did his thing. You know, we won't start that debate, but you know, it's been like, because he was complaining and they're like, well, if you're going to complain, get your ass over here and help. So that's how they got him somewhat involved with the redo, the ones they're doing now. But it's in my name, man. Give me back John Carpenter films. I want to see what this man can do before he's gone. You know, I've always said later in the 90s, it always just felt like either he was ahead of his time or he should have made that movie in the 80s and it probably would have blown up. You know, it would have been an action. We'd be talking about it in our top fives instead of, wait, what's the other ones he did? You know,
I saw Ghost of Mars in the theater and I bought the soundtrack and I got the poster and everything. Like, I was like, this is awesome. Like, within 2 seconds of it's like, ding, ding. I'm like, oh my God, John Carpenter did the music for this too. I'm like, you could tell you like in like one bar and they're like, oh yeah, this is it. I love that movie.
I love that movie too. It's just like the top 5 I picked were the ones that resonated more. You know, I guess. You know, I don't know how to explain it. It's like,
you could tell he was having fun. That was the difference of it. We were doing the research on it, and they said he played Metallica the whole time they were filming, and then brought in people like Anthrax, Buckethead, you know, all these like metal guys to just kind of help influence the soundtrack of Ghost of Mars. And you watch that movie and you go, this movie's metal as fuck. I love this thing. It's awesome.
And it's got Natasha Henstridge or something like.
Right, Species. Every adolescent kid watch Species for a reason, and we get to watch it. You know, we don't get what we did in Species in this one, but she's still hot. You know, we still enjoyed it.
And
she's actually the druggie. Yeah, she kicks ass and she's the druggie in it. So it's like you shouldn't be, you know, wanting her as the hero, but she is. That's the John Carpenter thing. We kept kind of, he does that. Like there's not always sometimes a clear good guy or bad guy. Like even Jack Burton is supposed to be our hero. It's accidental. You know,
he's an idiot.
Exactly. It's Mike Myers. We don't know why he's evil. He just is. All this Snake Plissken is the perfect anti-hero. I don't give a shit about your cause. I'm going to go do my stuff. I'm a criminal that now has to become a good guy and help. And, you know, disgruntledly, he has to do it because they have to threaten to kill him for him to do it. It's this way this John Carpenter, like, and you guys were talking about with the fog. We should be afraid of the people, the leper colony, the people coming out of the fog, but you're actually sympathetic to them. It's like, he's got this way of it, you know, of, I don't know who I'm supposed to like or not like, but damn it, I like the movie, you know.
The humans were worse in the fog, you know. Like,
I'll keep talking for another 20 minutes, guys. You want to make this 2 hours. I'm sorry, you know, I'm on like, sugar and alcohol right now, so.
No, I mean, wanted to say, didn't remember the remake of Village of the Damned that he did, and everyone dumped on it at the time, but I thought it was pretty good.
Got the soundtrack down too.
It's got Superman in it. Superman's in it.
And Mark Hamill, Superman and Skywalker.
I mean, that's awesome. Yeah, I mean, it was one of his best films, no, but it's still fun. I still enjoyed it. So. All right, well, shall we wind up there then, kids? Because I can't breathe because I have my windows closed here. Also, anybody viewing and thinks I'm looking weird, I am scarred and deformed.
I
have a problem with my eye, which I'm now on drugs for, so I'll be all nice and pretty for the next few
I'm on so many drugs right now. And it's like,
drugs are great.
Drugs are good. Drugs are great.
They just keep upping my medication because they don't know what's wrong with me. It's fucking awesome. It's like, whatever. Just
the American healthcare system, John. We got it covered, brother.
God bless America. Give me those drugs.
America.
It's like I'm gonna be, next, whenever we come back and do another one, I'll be drooling out of the side of my mouth.
I'll have like one eye or something.
They up my medication.
Snake
Plissken.
Snake Plissken.
Yeah, I know.
Man, we just did John Carpenter.
I should have worn the eye patch. Damn it. Oh well, I'll do that next time. All right, so we'll think of something cool to do in the next few weeks anyway. So thanks everybody for joining, and remember to like and subscribe to us, to everybody here, and we shall see you on the next one. And remember, if you're watching, you are the Action Elite.